Hello, Jed Wall, Sunflower Business Development Lead with Legend. I'm here today with Curtis Mosier of Ag Assembly Incorporated at Doran, Minnesota. And we're just kind of going over some spring planting pre-checklists for sunflower. And we're doing a really unique project that hasn't been done in the business before. We're actually taking all of our samples of sunflower, of every variety, of every lot number, of every seed size, and running them through 3 different meters on the precision planting stand to optimize our singulation and make sure we're doing the best job of planting our hybrids. In the business, it can be very different from even the same hybrid to the same size to different lot number. There's several different changes to get to optimal singulation. So we're after getting the best information to our growers so they can do the best job of planting. And keeping that in mind, every planter is different, every unit is different. So even though we've got these recommendations, there still are some small tweaks in the field that you're going to have to do to get your planter to plant at its best, but this is a very good jumping off point. So Curtis, what's kind of a pre-planting checklist before we even decide to even get to the field? What should we be looking for in our planter?
Just all the basic maintenance that you should be doing every year, checking your chains if you have chain drives, brand new ones every year on your row units. You want to make sure that your bearings are in good shape. You want to make sure that your row units, the parallel arms, the bushings, if they have bushings, you want to make sure that there's no slop in that row unit. From the toolbar back, you want to check every aspect of that. You want to make sure that your closing wheels are running true, the bearings are good. Just every mechanical aspect. Obviously, you want to get out of the tractor and grease it every day. Basic things like that. Just from the front to the back, you want to make sure that your hitch is sitting level so that your row units run level. They're called parallel arms for a reason. They're not uphill arms or downhill arms. So anything basic like that you can do. Depth wheels, you want them to run true. Another thing that we like to do is get the planter laid out on concrete. We get 1.5 inch 2x4, get a 1/2 inch piece of plywood or OSB on top of that. Set the planter down so that you have blocks under every depth wheel all the way across that planter, and then adjust your depth handles so that every one of them is true, and then mark it on your holes so that you know that your planter is trued out at that point, and you can kind of adjust from there. Very few planters are ever actually right, even brand new from the factory, so that's a pretty important step. Make sure your disc blades aren't worn, measure them, make sure they're within specs. The little scraper between them, make sure that everything is going to function in the field properly. So
very good, thank you. So why are sunflowers so difficult to plant? I mean, we've been working on this project for a couple weeks now, and we've had numerous challenges. Why are sunflowers so difficult to plant?
The shape, the weight, the size, there's so much variability. A kernel of corn doesn't have that much variability. Whether it's flat or round, small or big, there's not that much difference. Sunflowers are it's just a whole nother animal. So my question to you then would be singulation and spacing, and why is all that so important? Why are you being so picky on it?
Well, it's a very good question. We're very picky about it because we want to make sure, in different types of sunflower, especially in the confection, and spacing is very important because a lot of these guys are getting paid a premium for big seeds, and if we start stacking doubles on top of each other, we're going to have smaller seeds. If we start having big skips, we're going to not have a maximum yield potential because we've got so many skips in the field. Sure. It's also important in conos as well. It's also an edible crop that we want the guys to have a good plump count so they make their contracts and make some premium. On oils, it's also important. We want to make sure that we're dialed in so these guys are getting a consistent stand, so we're maximizing the yield and maximizing the potential for oil content.
Excellent.
Good morning. We're down at Ag Assembly at Doran, Minnesota. We're today with Curtis Mosier talking about the John Deere ProMAX 40 planter, giving a few tips and tricks of making the planter work along with some general maintenance and how to make your planter go and keep it going. So with that, Curtis, if you'd like to give us a run through.
Well, just some basics. Of course, you want to make sure your plates aren't warped. We'll open up the meter here and look inside. what we've seen on a lot of these John Deere meters is the aluminum housing itself will be a little bit warped. Sometimes you can get a straight edge on there and check that. We've also seen where this bearing is not pressed in straight even on a brand new one from the factory. So the disc will end up doing a wobble as it rotates, which really screws with your vac and will cause it to not plant good at all. We'll move into the cover here. You can see this knockout wheel. There's some pretty good wear on it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you want to make sure that these are in good shape. Also on the door gasket here, this one is a brand new one, but as these wear, you'll see them start to not have a corner here. They'll just kind of end up with an angle. They might get a tear in here, and then also on this other corner, they'll start to wear heavily there. When they start to do that, they start to have vacuum issues. So you want to make sure that your door seal is good. Make sure that your door isn't warped itself. And then of course the winter maintenance would be to pull your seed plate out and make sure that you're not having pressure against those gaskets at all times. And then inside the meter, kind of the basics, make sure that your brushes are in good shape. You don't want them to look like a paintbrush that your grandfather painted the barn with 30 times over. Make sure that they're all in good shape. We have the double eliminator. Pretty heavy wear on this one. This one still runs pretty good yet, but you want to make sure that you don't have a deep groove in here. You can feel it pretty good with your thumbnail. And then of course just the general settings, making sure that you follow the recommendations on where to set the double eliminator. I'll tip it up here. This one is a little older style, so it's got 3 notches on it. Some of the newer ones have an actual knob where they have a lot more adjustability to them. That will really affect the way it plants your sunflower seeds. So you want to just basically follow the recommendations on all that as well. So,
Curtis, can you tell us a little bit about the role of the double eliminator and what effect it has as the plate spins around?
It is basically trying to do what a singulator would do. It's trying to get rid of doubles. If you adjust it too far one way, it's going to start skipping really bad. You go the other way too far, you're going to end up with doubles. So it is very important. You want to make sure that you have it set properly.
So Curtis, what does the knockout wheel role in the whole scope of things?
Basically, that is just going to try and kick junk out of the seed plate holes, which is why you want it to be in good shape so it actually does its role. You got junk in the seed plate holes, it's just going to cause skips going down the row. Another thing we hadn't talked about is we've got 3 seed plates here. We've got an actual sunflower plate, we've got a sweet corn plate. Make sure that you have the right plate. We'll have recommendations for that. The sunflower plate isn't always the best for every sunflower. The sweet corn plate is going to run on very many of the sunflowers that we've tested. So make sure that you're paying attention to how it's working.
Good morning. We're at the Ag Assembly today at Dorn, Minnesota, and we're talking with Curtis Mosier of Ag Assembly about getting your precision planting ESet unit ready to plant, a few tricks of the trade, and a few things that we've done to go with our plantability testing here. So with that, Curtis, go ahead and...
All right. Well, a few things. The discs themselves usually don't have much trouble with warping, but you will notice a wear pattern on the back. Oftentimes, that is due to actual warpage of the aluminum housing itself. So we'll peel this open here. You'll start to see wear marks getting into the aluminum. Oftentimes that will be because this bearing is either getting bad and it's starting to wobble, or we've even actually seen new aluminum housings like this where the bearing hasn't been pressed in straight and the disc will wobble like that, and it will cause issues with your air pressure. It'll suck air and throw a few skips, and then it'll catch again. So that's something you definitely want to be careful of. Right in these areas here on the door seal are where the high wear areas are. You want to make sure that you have a good quality door seal, preferably the more flexible style. The John Deere used to have two kinds. There was a firm and a more soft, flexible style. The soft one seems to do a better job. Inside the meter, of course, you want to make sure your brushes are in good shape. Here we've got a specialty extractor. This is an example of a corn extractor. You got to make sure that you have that set up properly for whatever your recommendation is for your seed. Here we affectionately call it the paper clip. On some of the smaller seed, you want this little rubber hose to cover that up. It'll help protect the seed hull a little bit. But you run with that deflector in the up position on all these. And make sure your singulator is in the floating position. You also have the baffle here that can adjust closed or open, which of course this one doesn't want to cooperate right now, but it basically will close the doorway down a little bit for seed flow. I believe on most of the varieties of sunflower seeds we had it wide open to allow the flow to go very well. So just kind of the basics on that. Just make sure that your row unit is in good shape, and we'll go from there.
Good afternoon. We're working today at Ag Assembly Incorporated, south of Breckenridge, going over the Case Early Riser Planter 1250 series. I'm here today with Curtis Mosier, and we're going to go through a few tips about how to use the planter and a few things that might help you set up, a little planter maintenance, and just kind of an overview of the planter.
Just have some basic things. The marks on here are wear marks. As the disc wears out, these marks will disappear, these lines that you can see. So that's one of the things you want to make sure your disc isn't worn. You would also want to put this on a flat surface and make sure it's not warped. That will cause the suction to change drastically and absolutely ruin your ability to plant. As we look at the unit, we'll take the cover off, check on the inside. A brand new disc here. Got your singulator. You want to make sure that you have your singulator setting correct. Got the number that you can read right there. That will dramatically change how your planter plants. You want to inspect your brushes, make sure that they're in good working order. We also have a baffle position. The lever is here. Down is in the number 3 position all the way down. That opens it up wide. You just push back, move it up, down, however you need to. So you want to make sure that you have that at your recommended settings as well.
And what we're testing on our monitor and with our samples, we're running every hybrid of every seed size of every lot number on 1,000 seed sample. So what our goal is with this is to get all of our hybrids over 97%. So if you notice on the monitor, we're tracking a few things, one being skips, one being multiples, and that's all adjusted by the different air pressures. And we use, with the Case Early Riser planter, we use 4 different plates to dial it in. So Curtis, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what it means if you're getting too many skips or too many multiples, and what the seed release index means to a grower.
Well, our singulation is derived off skips, multiples, seed release. If you start seeing the skips come up, we want to give it a little bit more air. If you see the multiples running really high, we'd drop the air pressure a little bit. The seed release index, on the test stand we have 2 sensors on our seed tube, one in the middle, one at the bottom. So what that's trying to do is give you a little bit of a guess at how much seed bounce, how much the seed is traveling down the seed tube, which is going to affect your placement and your singulation as well. It'll affect your stand. So then the monitor shows you what we're running for vac, so we can adjust that on the go if we need to. Shows your target population, and as your skips and multiples change, it shows what your actual population is going to be. We got speed. It'll show you the torque that your meter is taking. So if you've got a bearing going out, you'll see the inch pounds dramatically rise, and it shows you the RPM everything's running at. So we test it at a given speed for the row unit spacing of the planter.